Hello again. I'm sure the viewers will have noticed that the more dire the political and economic situation grows in this country, the more that Keir Starmer starts hanging out with President Zelensky of Ukraine and talking about the terrible threat which Russia poses to Europe. The United States is probably preparing to cut loose from Ukraine and leave it to its own devices, which means that for some reason which I cannot quite grasp, we in Britain will have to do something about the situation there. The ostensible rationale for our interest in the Ukraine is that if Russia is not stopped there, then they will end up invading Lithuania and Poland and then sweeping west and conquering Europe before menacing Britain. This is, of course, absolute nonsense. Even if the Russians did for some reason decide to conquer Europe, they certainly wouldn't trouble us, for the simple reason that we always have a Vanguard-class submarine at sea, which has the independent ability to launch 8 nuclear missiles at Russia, each of which can deliver 5 warheads. This is our strategic deterrent, the cornerstone of which is known as the Moscow option. This means that however good the Russian defences are, and even if they manage somehow to destroy half the incoming warheads, which is in any case very unlikely, we would still have the ability to take out Moscow, St. Petersburg, and a dozen other major cities. Attacking Britain would therefore be a suicidal move on the part of the Russians, and they would never attempt it. Which, of course, makes us ask ourselves why the government here is pretending that Russia is a threat to us and trying to create a sense of crisis. The answer is simple. This country is in a terrible state, largely because the present government is worse than useless and is actually causing a lot of harm to the economy, as well as trashing ancient institutions such as trial by jury, say nothing of being seemingly incapable of getting a grip on immigration and so on. People are getting really, really irritated by the government. Obviously, it would be nice to find something which might take our minds off this state of affairs. And what could be better than claiming that our nation faces an existential threat from Russian aggression? The comparisons with Hitler and supposed dangers of appeasement, the spirit of Winston Churchill, these images may all be conjured up so as to persuade the population that there is not something much worse to worry about than the latest electricity bill or demand from the Inland Revenue. Your country is at risk, and now it's the time to drop all those petty concerns and for us all to offer a united front against the enemy facing us. This is a pretty good strategy, and I can see that our Prime Minister might feel that it's worth a gamble. Although there is not, in reality, the least chance of Russia actually attacking Britain, that doesn't mean that it might not be possible to engineer a few skirmishes in the North Sea, say, or on some remote plain in Eastern Europe. A nice limited war on the Polish border, say, or in defence of Lithuania, might do very nicely. And the great thing about European wars is that you can use them as an excuse to suspend elections and introduce emergency legislation, which lets you do as you please by scrapping habeas corpus and so on. Remember, between 1910 and 1918, there was no election in Britain. 8 years without an election, and all because of a nice war in Europe. I have no idea if the Prime Minister is crafty enough to be thinking along these lines, but it would certainly fit neatly with all the sabre rattling going on at the moment. Ukraine's not a member of NATO, and we have no obligation whatsoever towards it. So why we have troops there and are taking in all those refugees and so on, I really could not say. Watch the news carefully over the next few weeks And as you hear more and more about the threat which Russia poses to us, ask yourself always that question which we are taught to pose when considering a crime. Cui bono? Who benefits from this thing? In the case of anxiety about nuclear war, the answer is without a shadow of a doubt that the chief beneficiary of such fear in this country will be Keir Starmer and his government.